Could you tell me, the child labor law, how do I print that out and put that in, or?
Yes, there's a quiz. And as we get through, we'll get a little farther into it, and I can help you after the meeting and the presentation to help you get to the documents that you need for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question for you too, Brandy.
Yes.
Like last year, are we going to allow students to turn things in electronically? In other words, if they take a picture of their signed time card and submit it that way, that's okay?
So far, to my understanding, nothing has changed on that. We will, later in the meeting, we'll introduce a little more information about Transio, and Kelly will go over that. That will change a little bit, but she'll be able to answer some questions on that. But as of right now, you should be able to do everything the way that you've been doing it. And if I get any further information on that, I'll definitely forward along to you. So on this, if you guys could just make sure that the time cards are accurate and they reflect the correct hours for the week and the month. Students can't earn credit for days that they're absent from school. So this was something that we noticed just a little bit through the internal audits and the DOE audits. So the students do have to submit documentation proving that they worked the equivalent time to the time that they would have spent in the classroom. So it would be 4 hours per OJT period. So if the student does not meet the hours, the teacher can document their work in an in-class time card and just sign as their supervisor. So that is another option for them to be able to meet the requirements for the hours. There are many other options that the student can do to meet missed hours. They can work on any career exploration. So an example would be My Career Shines, career planning. We do have a soft skills curriculum, Google Classroom as well, listed in the resources. They can do resumes, job searching, any teacher created assignments are fine, just as long as there's a paper trail to show that they did make up those hours. And it is a good idea for teachers to cross-reference the attendance with the time cards. You can get a focus report from your information specialist, and that'll help you get an indicator of, the attendance versus what's turned in. So far, does anyone have any questions about this? Okay, we'll move along. So just a few important details. Please make sure that all paperwork is updated right away if the student changes jobs. The signatures can't be typed. They do have to be the original signatures. And your school name does need to be on top of that time card. So where it says school name here, you do need to just change that to your school name. That was one thing one of the auditors had pointed out last semester. And then just make sure that everything is dated. If the hours are corrected or they're handwritten, that's okay, but it does need to be initialed. So the student does need to be an employee, have a supervisor, and have taxes taken out of their check. So for OJT, they can never be self-employed or contract labor. If the student is working in a family business, they do need to have a direct supervisor and be on an official payroll where the taxes are being deducted from that, from their check. So a check stub is a great form of documentation to be able to, definitely have that in the file. A copy of a check is not really a check stub. So that was one thing they did point out last semester, where there are a few students, giving copies of just a paycheck, but they actually, the check stub would be needed for that if there's any question.
But Brandy, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
A lot of these kids, they work for their parents, or not a lot of them, but some of them, or a business in which they don't do payroll with a check stub. They do payroll with just a basic check. They might get an end of the year statement for taxes, but they don't give them like what McDonald's would give them, or a major corporation. They don't give them that really nicely laid out they give them just a check.
Okay.
What are we supposed to do with that?
I'm going to follow up with you on that. Let me check with Kelly and Mary to find out. I know what we were running into before is sometimes when that was happening, it was because they were being paid under the table. So it wasn't a legitimate job, where they're having taxes taken out. So that's really where the, from our experience with audits, we just recently, the last one that was done, they had asked for a paycheck stub, and it was basically just to be able to show that that person qualified for OJT and that they were following the proper procedures, because it was just a copy of a check. And I think they were doing they were working for a family or something of that nature. But so Kevin, I'll follow up with you and get you a little more information on that. But I know right now they are wanting, they just want to make sure that the job is legitimate and that it's following under the proper rules and procedures. So hopefully that kind of answered it, but I'll get you, see if I can get you a more specific answer on that. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. My PowerPoint's moving very slow. I apologize.
Will you send us the PowerPoint when we're done?
I will, and I'm going to upload this in the Google Classroom as well. So, and we're recording it, so anyone can get up to date or review it. All right, for students under 18. So here's some requirements for any students that are under 18. They must log unpaid breaks, and it does have to be at least a 30-minute uninterrupted break for every 4 hours of work. So these limitations, they apply when school is in session as well as when school is not in session. So if the student is under 18 years of age and they attend high school, they may not work over 30 hours a week or over 8 hours a day if school follows the following day. So an example of that would be Monday through Thursday. For work hours when school is in session for minors that are 16 or 17, they may not work before 6:30 in the morning or after 11 o'clock p.m. when there's school the next day. So a common finding that we did find during our internal audits were that the breaks were not being logged by the student at all in some cases, or they were being logged past that 4-hour break. And in one of the recent, they just had a webinar last night for the child labor laws. And they had said that is probably one of the biggest findings that they find when when they're going out and doing audits is are the breaks. So that is one thing. It's, it's a very common thing. So so if they're logging it even a few minutes after the 4 hours, it's in violation of child labor laws. So it does have to be within that, once they hit that 4 hours or every 4 hours, and they have to have the 30-minute uninterrupted. If you have any questions about child labor laws, the contact information here for Jeff Manning, he is a great resource and he can answer any questions that you have. If you were not able to attend last night's child labor law webinar, you can email me. And if I didn't, I think I sent out the link for it, but it was done through the DOE. And if you email her, you can request a copy and she'll get that sent over to you. So it would be through Caitlin Vickers. So there's a lot of good information on there if you're new or if you're just wanting to brush up on the child labor laws. All right, so a few basics. So just as a reminder, I am your contact person for any OJT questions, and I will schedule any future PLCs. So it looks like our next FTE weeks for this year is going to be October 2nd through the 8th and February 5th through the 11th. So I will be reaching out to you as we get closer to that time and give you any updates or any information that we get, but then we'll be scheduling the internal audits just to be able to help and guide you through the process. And then for those, also for, I think Janice, you'd asked this question, but for the folders, for the records, you want to keep them in the cume room, and you want to keep 5 years plus the current year. And I have gotten all of your OJT boxes put in the pony. So if you have not received them yet, you should be getting them. So I've got some files and some supplies and things in there. If you need additional boxes or additional supplies, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll get those sent over to you.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
When you said that we keep it in the cume room, the kids I have this year, I keep in my classroom, and at the end of the year, I put in the cume room. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's
Okay,
fine.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. And so for resources, just a reminder, there are many resources that are available to you. If a student has not met the required OJT hours, they can do classwork to make up the time. So teachers have access to the OJT work-based learning classroom, and the code is right here on this slide. It's the same one that we've been using for a while. The assignments are not limited to these resources. So anything that the student's doing to make up, again, for any time, they would just need to print off the assignment and, you know, whatever is decided that they should do. And then this just needs to be attached to a separate time card. And then the teacher would sign as the supervisor for that. So that's pretty common, you know, if they're absent, you know, and they're trying to make up for hours. And then of course, Paula Crutchley, she does the My Career Shines trainings. And so she is our district representative. She is amazing. So any questions that you have about how to navigate it, about pulling reports, about, you know, getting your students set up with an account, it's a great way for them to be able to, you know, meet those requirements. So she is available. She's very quick to respond. So her phone number and her email is here. She can do one-on-one trainings. She can do a training in your classroom with your students, or she can do group trainings. So if you need more information on that, I can help you as well. And then we have the DOE OJT manual, and then some, you know, I put a link here for some frequently asked questions. All right, so Transio, we're really excited to update you on Transio. Kelly is going to share some details on this later in the meeting. But for those of you that don't know, Transio is an online software. It works as an internal database for our teachers, employers, and students. So this is going to make our life easier with OJT. I really think it will. So it's going to help track that internships and any career exploration. Geo-tracking and DocuSign is also going to be available on that. So that'll be a lot of help for us. Online job board is going to be able to connect students to employers. So this board is going to act as a version of Indeed. So students can directly communicate with vetted business partners. And that would be, you know, regarding employment opportunities. So we have decided to pilot the software this year with a few schools that were so gracious to help us out. So I want to give a thank you to Garrett at Fort Myers High School, Ariana at Cape High, and Stephanie over at East Lee. So as of right now, all of our others, everyone else is going to be doing the procedures and OJT the way that we've done it the previous semesters until further notice. We're going to do the pilot with these schools just to figure out how everything works and just make sure that everything's running the way it's supposed to. We're getting everything aligned with what DOE wants. So, so we are really excited about that. And again, Kelly, once I'm finished with this portion, Kelly is going to share more information about Transio. All right, so again, your OJT boxes have gone out. Are there any specific questions that you have about anything that was covered or anything in addition that I can answer for you now?
I have a question about the child labor laws quiz, unless you're going to be getting to that.
What was your question?
Well, I've got the child labor laws quiz up on my computer right now. And usually there's something in the top where I can make a copy of it.
Okay.
I don't see anywhere at this point where I can make that copy so that I.
Okay. Let me make a note of that and then I'll go
Okay.
in after the meeting and look at it. And
Okay.
we'll make sure that we get that corrected or added on there. And that's a child labor law quiz.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know that.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. And Kelly, are you on? Let me see if she is. She had a meeting prior to this, so it doesn't look like she is on just yet. Let's see. Did anyone else have any questions that I can answer? Okay.
If that chain password doesn't work for me, can you still write us down so we get credit for the meeting?
I will check with our, I'll check with our director secretary here. To my understanding, you have to be able to log into it. I don't know if she's able to log them manually. But did you spell it CLAME?
Okay.
And I can ask her, I'll ask about that. Okay. Let's see. Go to the chat. Kevin, were you able to get in?